and then we realised we lived next door to each other, and then we realised we actually liked music. So
Yeah.
he had a shed where he had a guitar and a drum kit. He was learning drums. I took my guitar over to his house and played Sultans of Swing.
Yes.
I played the rhythm and he played the lead, and I was like, he's way better than me at guitar. Oh, look, there's the drum kit. Why don't I just jump on the drums?
And that's how it all started.
That's how it all started.
Welcome to 30 Minute Call, proudly presented by the Canberra Theatre Centre, produced on Ngunnawal country. We pay our respect to the people and elders of the Ngunnawal Nation. Yarn, g'day, hello. My name is Joe Gleeson, and today we get to talk to drummer David Williams from the brilliant, successful, loved and respected Australian band Augie March. At the time of recording this, Dave and his bandmates are due to do the first of the Sunset Studies Live 2021 performances in Melbourne tomorrow night, if that makes sense. And a fresh COVID cluster has just appeared in Melbourne. So you get to hear how he's feeling when he picks up the phone. Despite this, we have a really great yarn and a lot of laughs. Stick around to hear some stories about that album, the band, and a thing called Augie March Fight Club. David Williams, this is your 30-minute call.
Hello, David speaking.
Hello, David. It's Joe here from the Canberra Theatre Centre. How are you?
I'm well. It's a little on edge about what's happening in my state right now.
Oh, I heard a bit of that this morning on my on the school drop-off and all that stuff. I thought, oh man,
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't get any bigger than, because it's at about 4 at the moment. Is that right?
That's right, but they've introduced restrictions.
Oh no.
So we're actually waiting to hear if our show goes ahead tomorrow.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So how serious are the restrictions at the moment?
It's no, so everyone indoor has to wear a mask. No gatherings above 30 people in public places, but that's private gatherings.
Oh, okay.
But it's a case-by-case thing for quote-unquote cultural events, and along with Aussie Rules footy. And
Right.
so it's like far out,
Kidding.
man. So look, it's weird. I'm wondering if Melbourne turns into a red zone, like far out. What happens if you can't get on a plane on Friday?
Yeah. Gonna have to.
Yeah, it's
Way
brutal,
down.
and it was the internal Augie March email machine went into hyperdrive at about 9 a.m. this morning.
Oh, mate. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Fingers crossed. you know.
Yes. Yep. I've actually never been to the Melbourne Recital Centre.
Yes.
What's that venue? That's flat floor? That's not seated?
It's a beautiful. Yeah, it's seated.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, like it's a beautiful room. Amazing. Like beautiful wood carvings on the wall. Probably you could check it out online.
Yeah,
The
I will.
Elizabeth Murdoch main room. It's about 1,000-seater, and it's amazing. Stand on the middle of the stage, speak, and someone, person at the back wall can hear.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's awesome.
Very
yeah, it really is a breathtaking sort of room, definitely.
Well, mate, let's crack on and
Yeah, of course.
record this thing and just keep our fingers crossed. Oh my God.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I can't believe it. We are talking to the man himself, David Williams, the drummer from the mighty Augie March, the heartbeat, the brains, the brawn, the looks, everything. He's a drummer, for goodness sake.
Goodness sake.
Mate, how are you? Apart from, of course, all of this stress that suddenly you find yourself under, how are you?
All is well.
Good.
Excited to perform again with the band. We have not played maybe for a year and a half.
Yep.
Like the
Wow.
last gigs we did were December 2019.
Jeez.
We did some recording, actually, we were in a studio on New Year's Day in 2020 and did recording. We've got we were sort of planning to do a record in 2020, and did a lot of recording in those first 10 days.
Mm.
And then, you know, we'd planned the Sunset Studies Live stuff to happen in, I think it was March. I actually can't even remember now.
Yeah.
Of 2020. And then, roll something out later in the year. But it all, as things closed in very quickly, we realised that was not going to happen. And Glenn actually was like, hey, I might take this time to make a solo record, because he lives down in Hobart.
Yep.
And he was like, if it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do anything release-wise, so I might do some recording. So he gave it away and punched out a solo record.
Awesome.
Yeah, in his little studio at the back of his house.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And then we're sort of wrapping our fingers on the table saying, hey, we're sitting in lockdown here, bro. Come on, send us something. We can actually do some work in our houses. So,
let's jam, kind of by distance.
Yeah. It was more like, let's hear a rough mix of some of the songs, so we can work out. But yeah, he was like, look, this might be a good time for me to do something. Yeah. So he released that, and we're sort of tossing up some ideas around what we're going to do with these recordings, if we need to add any more. The world changed in a massive way, after we recorded those songs, and Glenn was interested in writing some songs just as on reflection, as a reaction to them as well.
Yeah.
So, at the moment, we've got a few things sort of bubbling away, but definitely front of mind is these shows rolling out Sunset Studies Live.
Very, very cool, mate. I want to talk, obviously, more in depth about these shows, but I want to start and give people a bit of a history of David Williams. So let's start where it all began, in beautiful downtown Shepparton, Victoria, mate. I actually lived in Shepparton for all of 12 months. I worked on a brekkie show on one of the local radio stations there, and one of my nice memories have been...
Sun FM? Are you saying Sun FM?
Yeah, yes, I was on, I think it was Star FM by the time I got there, but I did a brekkie show there for 12 months. And one of my fond memories was being headbutted in the pub by a chap who didn't like my radio show. That's
some direct feedback. We do that well up in Shepparton.
Mate, I didn't blame him. It wasn't great. Do you have fond memories of your time in Shep as a young lad?
Very fond, actually. I actually did my first 0 to 12 years in Ringwood, actually, out of Melbourne.
Oh, right.
Outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne. I think that's where a lot of rock and roll dudes came from.
Yeah, right.
The more I hear about, the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne has, there's a few of us out there. Davey Lane, is one of them out, Rowville and that. But I did so I was in Ringwood and then shifted up to Shep as a 12-year-old and did my high school there.
Right.
But really fond memories of the place in that way where it's a very flat country up there, and just riding your bike, going for a swim in the river, playing cricket, doing all the things that you sort of quintessential country town things, quote unquote, underage drinking, going down to the park, all those things, getting locked up in for underage drinking as a 16-year-old, doing that. It's very
mischief.
fun.
You don't know how lucky you are, mate, growing up in a place as flat as Shepparton. I mean, growing up, downhill on the way away from my house, on the way home, just a nightmare. Like, you'd be exhausted. It's such a great place for a bike.
Definitely. Really, wonderful place for bike riding.
Yeah.
And you can sort of get, we went bike riding to towns close by. I remember one day we decided to go on a bike ride to Euroa, which is like 40k away.
Yeah.
Home of Sonny Lunig, actually. So, he grew up there. So, yeah, really, you know, there's a big sporting aspect to it, which I love sport. But I was also lucky to, you know, meet Adam Donovan, the guitar player from Augie March, as a 13-year-old playing cricket. And then we realised we lived next door to each other. and then we realised we actually liked music. So we kind of met and started playing music together very early.
That's so cool.
And just, and his shed, he had a shed where he had a guitar and a drum kit. He was learning drums. And I took my guitar over to his house to play Sultans of Swing.
Yes.
And I played the rhythm and he played the lead, and I was like, he's way better than me at guitar. Oh, look, there's the drum kit. Why don't I just jump on the drums?
And that's how it all started.
That's how it all started. And actually, that drum set still gets used. The drum set that I was sitting in his shed still is used on Augie March recordings, and you can see it in some early Augie videos. We used it. And
is that a little Pearl?
It is. It's
kit?
that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's that. It's called Pearl, and the rap on it's called a Tiger Eye.
Oh,
Pearl
nice.
Tiger Eye. So a lot of those made their way over to Australia.
Very cool.
And
that's so good. What's it like now working with someone that you've known for that amount of time and still making music together? Is that bizarre? Just thinking about, God, we got some history.
Of course. Well, everyone. You know, I guess being in a band is like being in a weird family. You've known them so long. You work with them, but it's not necessarily like a job where you see each other at the water cooler in the office.
Yeah,
it's this. You're doing work together, but you're working on music, which can elicits a lot of emotions and quite strong. Quite strong opinions, and then you go on tour. It's like you go on tour with them,
living in each other's
with
pockets.
each other. Yeah, and so it's like a family, a weird family, I would say. But that in some ways they are like brothers, to me, because we know a lot about each other, and we sort of see the best and the worst of each other too.
Yeah. Mate, Augie March as a band, it's had hordes of success. I mean, 5 albums, a live album, a few EPs, a #1 on Triple J's Hottest 100, for goodness sake. Heaps of ARIA nominations, praise from all over the world. But now we see you guys going back to revisit that first album, Sunset Studies, performing it live. I'm guessing, David, from beginning to end? We're not going to be jumping all over the place?
No.
Awesome.
It's the first time we've actually had a set list already written.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, set list in our band get written like half an hour before the show, sometimes 15 minutes.
That's cool.
Well, it's not that cool when you're trying to organise stuff. Talk to our front of house guy and our lighting guy.
Not that cool,
our lighting people, or our tech. It's like, what the hell?
Guys, come on. But at least, you're vibing all the songs that you're putting on that list, and everyone's getting a good show because you're into them all, because you only decided to play them 15 minutes ago. It's
very, like throw them all up in the air, see where it lands.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah. But I mean, it can be a jarring experience when you're used to hearing songs in a certain order, and then suddenly that can be no fun for the fans. So that's cool. Straight from track one all the way through.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that it doesn't always work. Everyone knows, like an album order usually is well thought out.
Yes.
For the listening experience, but live, that's a different beast.
Yeah.
So, but this was really a concept, like, let's just do it and have it like the album come to life in front of people's eyes and ears, and, really make all the colours hyper, make everything just like this hyper real moment in time. So
it's it was released in 2000. It's turned 21. Take us back to the time when Augie March was just a toddler and you guys were putting this album together. What are some of the big memories of that time?
Just making it up as we go along, which like there's definitely still a feature to that.
Yeah, right.
Being excited to go into the studio and use that as an instrument itself.
Right.
Get to really use the studio as an instrument and work out what we can do inside there rather than just play the song, document the performance and then leave. Go in there and explore sounds, explore moods, maybe get to the heart of the song. Not maybe, that's the idea, trying to seek out the heart of the song, and that's always can be a difficult process. Sometimes a song reveals itself really quickly to an artist or a band, and it's a simple process. A lot of the times, you're kind of throwing a dart at a dartboard 100 meters away in the dark, and the recording process and the rehearsing and the pre-production is you walking closer and closer, and the sun coming up or the light getting turned on, and you're getting closer and closer to the dartboard itself, and trying to achieve that, get to the heart of what the songwriter and the song is trying to tell you and the listener. So we went in just with a naivety and a childlike energy, and let's give a shot to try everything. I think we'd call people up and ask them to come in, and they'd get there and they're like, okay, what have we got to do? The engineer would be like, okay, what am I doing? And we're like, oh yeah, we have to play in the song. I remember getting a mate to come in with a clarinet to the end of Tulip, and instead of giving him the song before the day, he turned up, and for 3 hours he would play, and we're like, nah, not that. Yeah, that sounds kind of good. Just so.
That's going to be expensive, right? Because studio time.
Yes, it is. Yeah, definitely. So we were very lucky that we had a major label that was willing to pay some money to let us explore that as well. We were very fortunate.
Right.
In hindsight, we should have done a lot more. We actually did a lot of pre-production, but when you get in the studio, ideas get thrown around, and it's like, yeah, let's get in this person. We definitely, I think I brought in an accordion to play on Owen's Lament, the last song, a part, and I ended up having to play it one note at a time because I couldn't play it. Instead of getting someone in just to do it 5 minutes and then leave it, it was just so...
Love that.
But that was the idea, and we had Paul McKerch producing, and Chris Thompson, who were really willing accomplices there, who were ready to give us time to work on things, bounce ideas off each other. It ended up, the recording process itself ended up stretching over a few months, multiple sessions. We started in at Sing Sing in Richmond, which no longer exists. I think we did 10 days there. Went to a smaller studio in Carnegie or Balaclava called Woodstock, that Paul McKercher had to leave. So we asked, we sort of scrambled and found another engineer, an English guy, I've actually forgotten his name, who was like a friend, someone got in contact with him, and he'd engineered Rum, Sodomy and the Lash, the Pogues record, and we were like, fuck yeah. I hope you can swear on this podcast. And he came in, and he turned up and literally hadn't heard a song. So we did about 3 or 4 songs, and again did those silly overdub ideas after playing things pop. As things came up, we tried a few things, and I think I recorded some bells just standing there, shaking some sort of wind chimes, and he pressed stop and said, "That's the greatest overdub I've ever done, Dave," and everyone laughed. And then
so good.
We went there, and then we actually did some recording in ABC Studios in South Bank with Chris Thompson, who was at the time working at the at Triple J as their live their OB guy.
Right.
Outside.
Yeah.
And he, so we had this beautiful room in there, and I think we did Owens, or no, we didn't do it. No, we did a few songs in there. Richard Pleasance came in and co-produced a couple of tracks there. Men Who Follow, Spring the Planet Round was one of them. Marooned Reservoir, or Vor, if you're from another part of Australia, he did as well.
Yeah.
So Rich, who we'd worked on with Asleep in Perfection, and it was really a hodgepodge. It wasn't very organised. And
so what was the reason for going to so many different places?
Well, we didn't finish songs, and songs just kept getting added. It was we've never been great at editing or, saying something's finished. Right. So I think we'd sort of run out of time right at the start with Paul. We'd done maybe 4 or 5 songs with Paul rather than a whole record at Sing Sing initially. And we'd got most things done, but there was a few loose ends to tie up. And I think we ended up finishing songs, that had been recorded elsewhere with Tomo at the ABC studios. And right before we thought we'd finished, Glenn actually wrote The Offer and There Is No Such Place.
Right.
They came in very late. They came in after the bulk of the songs had been recorded.
Oh, wow.
But at that time, Rob Dawson, Augie March's first piano player and sort of guitar player, had joined the band. Him and Glenn were really close friends from uni, and Glenn had played that song to us, and Rob had gone off and written a piano part, and they'd come back and said, "Mate, that is a great song. I've written this piano part. We should record it." And we were like, "Yeah, of course it is." So we went in on a weekend to the ABC and recorded There Is No Such Place and The Offer, and they got put right at, they got sort of not tacked on, but
just made it.
They got put into the lotto.
Wow.
The lotto barrel to roll around for choice as well.
It must be a hard process deciding, if you've got an absolute hoard of songs, because it's a long album. It's a long album as it is, but if you've got an extra 10 or even 5 extra songs that you can't quite fit on there, and you've got to cut them out, that must be a hard process.
No, we are terrible at that. We have I can show you 99 length email threads where people are arguing incessantly that, mate, we are like the Augie March of the Masters of Email Guantanamo Bay, mate. It's email fight club. That's what it is. We've mastered that, where sometimes you see 2 people going at one another and everyone else is just quiet watching.
Yeah. Wow. It must be so tough though.
Yeah, it is hard, and you sort of, as we've got a bit older, we've learnt that, if people are super passionate about it, you just, you put your preferences forward and see how it all turns out. Yeah.
Let's talk. I mean, you mentioned Rob Dawson there. Obviously, 2001, after Sunset Studies was released, your original keyboardist Rob Dawson tragically passed away due to a car accident after the release of the album.
Yeah.
As you say, Rob's piano playing and his backing vocals feature on that super popular track that just made it in there, There Is No Such Place. How does it feel for you 20 years on playing that song, or about to play that song live? It must feel different?
Yeah, well, there's times when that song has fairly much remained in the set since it entered in the set, in mid 2000. We were playing it before the launch, when we're doing some shows, and we did a tour. We had a couple of months off, maybe more, maybe 6 months, and did a tour called There Is No Such Tour, and Rob had a photo of Rob on our T-shirt.
Yeah, awesome.
So and it was a wonderful. It sort of, I wasn't sure how it would go. You feel a lot of emotion wrapped around that, But it's a wonderful way to honour him and his artistry and his legacy and the person that he was.
Yeah.
And that's genuinely how it's going to be tomorrow night and on these shows, because it's just a great way to honour someone. They live on in that, in their performance and their playing and their voice. And, we're hopeful that Ron and Marie, his parents, can make it. Dave, his brother, I think lives in America now, but
right.
It's really positive for me. It's just a wonderful way to honour someone.
Yeah.
There was times when, you'd play the song and you would catch yourself thinking about Rob, and would sort of emotion would well up. And I'd probably, these shows, because of the nostalgia aspect to them for a lot of people, coming along and hearing these songs live and that immediately taking them back to a point in their lives, I think it'll be quite interesting just to see and, witness the feeling in the room when these things happen.
Yep.
Because, honestly, I've played some songs that I haven't played in 20 years. The first time I did it, the hair on the back of my neck stood up.
Wow.
Because it was like that sort of, you opened a door in your house to go into a room you haven't gone in for a long time, and there's things in there that remind you of things, and that's exactly what that felt like, when that happened. So I'm really looking forward to breaking down the fourth wall. Like, it'd be this sort of feedback loop between audience and band, because everyone's going to be there doing something new together.
It's, as you're saying, you're playing a lot of these songs live for the first time in a while. Are there any of the songs on that album that hit differently now that you're playing them, 20 years later, 21 years later?
I would say pretty much all of them.
Right.
Just 21 years down the track, we're better. We're playing better as a band. Like, we'd been together 4 years when we played that album and made that record. Those songs change. Songs are living things, and they change over time with how you interpret them and how you can sort of highlight different colours of the song and different moods in that song. We're trying to stick fairly closely to how they were interpreted, in 2000. But over time, you definitely, for us anyway, we've really been about sort of searching for different moods in those songs and interpretations of the song, and sometimes giving it a different context to, and that just for excitement's sake and interest's sake in amongst the band. But Glenn is a wonderful songwriter, and a lot of these songs can work a lot of different ways, simply from the guitar and a vocal all the way up to, playing it with the Western Australian Symphony Orchestra, which we did. So exploring that is definitely something we've always been interested in. But for these shows, we're just trying to really be faithful to the recording, but also have in mind that make every colour hyper, make every sound, and just make the experience, just a fully immersive, full immersion in the lingo of the now.
Yeah, awesome.
Full immersion.
You love it. Sounds great.
Yeah.
So after Sunset Studies, mate, you guys released Strange Bird, then Moo You Bloody Choir, which of course features One Crowded Hour and goes nuts for you guys. Then Watch Me Disappear, which is huge for you guys as well. Then after seeing years of touring and releasing of music, the fans of Augie March had to endure the hiatus from 2009 to 2014. Were you guys just exhausted by 2009, mate?
Yeah. It was definitely burnt out. It was not a fun time internally in the band. By the end of that, the touring of Watch Me Disappear, and Glenn had expressed, he's like, look, I feel like I need a break, but I also want to try and make a record with my brother. Yep. And honestly, it felt like the right time. Everyone was tired, and every interaction was getting tense, and difficult. So it was definitely the right time. And I think at the time, and I reckon it holds true now, I said, look, it's not too bad for me. I lose a bandmate, but you sort of regain a friend with the members, because you can, even though everything is always through the prism of Augie, you can kind of not the intensity of having to do a gig or go into a recording session. You can sort of hit up mates and, catch up or talk about other things.
Yeah, cool.
So that was definitely something I sort of followed up on, and just things can, especially in this world of emails and doing gigs and doing this thing together that's really intense. Like, music's very close to everyone's heart in the band, so it can get a bit willing or, almost dehumanizing at times when the way you go at one another. So that was great to just wind that back and see the person.
Yeah, nice. You did, of course, come back together and release Haven's Dumb.
Yep.
What was it like coming back after that 5 years and sort of going, all right, hey, I think we're ready to do this again?
Well, the email started about in 2012 from Richo. He was like, hey.
Yeah, right.
Do you want to do a record?
I want to see you again.
So, look, so maybe that and finding out that running a band on your own is not that easy, and it's tough work too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that had a bit to do with it.
Yeah.
But being in a band is like, it's a team sport in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And I'm a sport nut, and, there's members of the band who are like that. So it was good to get back and see one another. There's always a bit, there's a bit of trepidation there when you haven't seen each other for a little while, and we hadn't seen each other for 3 years or played together 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, recording was all right, we rehearsed, but Glenn had moved to Hobart in that time. So we didn't get to see him much, and when we did, it was just all work. So you'd see each other and just be back straight into it. So it went pretty well. I pretty much set myself for the gig, the first gigs back in November of 2014, and I think I stopped drinking alcohol mid-year, because I just wanted to feel really clear and have because the emotions, again, those emotions sort of started coming up, in that intense environment. They hadn't sort of gone away.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of set myself for that. And those shows were pretty intense in that way, where we hadn't experienced, we sort of not experienced that intensity of audience and band playing together and that sort of interaction for a while. So, reflecting back, it was fun, but it was also pretty intense. I know members were, it was like I think we did 5 gigs in a row at Howrah in Melbourne, and after it was like, wow, that was pretty intense and good, but intense.
Yeah, right. Who do you follow in the footy, mate?
Collingwood Football Club.
Oh, right. How they
it's
going?
Okay. Well, I don't care. We don't care. We're like the UN. We're every creed, every colour. Well, like, I'm hoping at the moment, this nonsense, all the racism that has been levelled at the club, and rightly so. Hopefully we can just respond,
Yeah.
But yes, Collingwood Footy Club.
Yep. Hopefully you can win a couple more games.
I'm strangely
this season.
I'm strangely sort of optimistic, because we're not going to win the flag, and there might be an opportunity for a change, and some of the young players, are coming through, and some of those older players, I'm getting to see a different side of them, just the way they're sticking it out to sort of foster the younger players. And so, it's been, I've really loved watching the games this year, just with the changes to the rules. But we're Augie's big. Kinnan's a Bulldog supporter. Glenn's a Don supporter.
All right.
Adam's he's sort of he's a Swan supporter.
Yeah, right.
But he doesn't really care. And Ed's no, yeah, sport and Ed, not necessarily. I think maybe car racing, maybe doing burnouts is Ed's favourite sport. Growing up in Brunswick and Coburg back in the day. Yeah, so he has to endure hours of sport, SFT we call it, serious footy talk in the tour van.
Just allotted time for a bit of SFT.
Well, you know, in times gone past, it's either footy, cricket. You know, I think, you know, we were on the road when the Soccer World Cup, when we...
Oh, yeah.
We got up and watched Australia, you know, qualify.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things that happened while I've been with the band, like my Collingwood, I do endure watching the drawn grand final, you know, at a festival on a little TV, 400 k's west of, and everyone going for St Kilda, and no one really caring. And a lady came up to me with about 20 minutes ago in that game and said, "You really care about this?" And I think I turned around and said, "Fuck off" or something. You don't really care about this, do you? And like, I was just like in the coach's box at the time in my head. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I had to play a gig later that night.
Just shattered.
I've had to do it a few times. Yeah, Collingwood lost in 2002. We were in Newcastle, playing some funny old place.
Yeah.
Well.
So good. Mate, is this right? You went back to study music in 2015?
It's true. After doing a course straight out of high school in Melbourne, sort of came straight to Melbourne, did a course, which was really it was an advanced certificate in music performance, which is one up from a certificate, which is a one up from VCE. I did 2 years. It was like a primer course to go on to something like a bachelor course or, you know, in music improvisation, that maybe at the VCA in Melbourne or La Trobe. I wanted to be in a band, so I left, and Augie March literally started the year, a couple of months after my final, started in March 96.
Yeah,
and
right.
Yeah, so
it was a bit of unfinished business there, sort of thing.
Well, it sort of turned out Kiernan has always worked in he's worked at VU for as long as I've known him at Vic Uni, and he mentioned at the time, you know, you can probably do the bachelor course if you're interested. You can do this course because you can get some recognition of prior learning, and just being in the industry.
Yeah,
so
I think you've had a little bit of prior learning.
Well, a bit of that.
Roll out the album covers, mate.
Sure. Yeah, lived experience, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
So we, and 2015, after between Havens Dam and Budikins, there was some time off, and I went in and checked it out, and completed that bachelor degree, and that's also got to do with me teaching. I teach instrumental music, and have been doing that for 20 years, and a lot of the quals now to get into schools, whether that be primary or secondary or tertiary, they've really started to tighten that up and sort of squeeze a lot of people with said lived experience, all that knowledge, but not much qualification. A lot of those people have been squeezed out. So there's been, there's a real sort of friction in there where it's like a brain drain where you lose all this experience just because they haven't got a degree. And it's a real, there's a real worry. It's like a story. The story stops getting told, and then that story never gets told again. So I'm definitely sort of from sort of both sides of that. I've been a touring and recording musician for my band, as well as doing a lot of session work. So I've had that sort of hand, I've been on the tools for 25 years, but I've also been, got a degree and been teaching privately and in schools as well. Wow. So,
do you enjoy that, mate? Is that a nice, rewarding experience for you, being able to lead that next generation?
Yes, definitely. And the interaction between student and teacher, and just is all. I find it really invigorating, exciting to help people express themselves. Help pass on some experience and skill that I've got. Again, tell that story, keep that story going. Show people that they don't, this expression, the thing that you don't actually see much people do or, reveal to other people often, it's something to be celebrated, especially the younger, my primary school kids. And I conduct concerts and I invite parents and other, the students along. And that's a really big aspect of it, of getting to see your peers expressing themselves in a very different way rather than in the classroom or out in the... So, yeah, I find it rewarding. It also is a wonderful way to take yourself away from the self-obsession that, a lot of musicians struggle with.
Yeah, right.
Thinking about what they're doing all the time and their things. You start, working with other people, make other people, helping other people. It's really, I find that really rewarding, and it's energizing.
Very cool. Mate, we will be watching very closely what happens in the next few hours, I suppose. Tomorrow night, you guys are on at the Melbourne Recital Centre, 26 and 27 May, and then 28 May here in Canberra at the Canberra Theatre Centre doing Sunset Studies Live 2021. Oh,
right.
Everything crossed, mate, I guess.
Yeah, fingers, toes, the works, man. The works, I've purposely not looked at emails or, if my phone hasn't rung, which means that's good too.
Okay, that might be good news. You might have 1,000 emails to go and have a look at, but
Augie March Fight Club might be full effect right now.
David Williams from the mighty Augie March, mate. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and sharing some of your stories with us, mate. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for coming on.
It was a pleasure to join you. Thank you for asking me along.